Hi, everyone. Welcome to Grain Therapy, the woodworking podcast where we discuss our passions, methods, and personal growth as we build our woodworking businesses. This week, we're switching to marathon speed. A contented pace while keeping the dreams alive has been overdue. I'm working on a book about emotional trauma while Matt talks about updating his brand name. Spoiler alert, it's already Arbor Furniture Co. He works fast. We talk a little bit about furniture design, but this episode feels more like life design. This podcast can be found anywhere you like to listen. If you find value in it, please leave us a comment or review. In addition to following this podcast, find us at Boss Man's Boutique and at Arbor Furniture Co. to see our projects start to finish. So sit back and watch, listen while you work, or put us on in the background. Either way, we hope you enjoy.
So, what's new?
Still working on the shop. So that's we're almost up and going. It's just kind of dragging out a snail's pace. Nate's been super busy. And then as I've talked about here, I'm kind of all over the place with my agenda. So not a whole lot's new. Still getting over my sickness. I gave it to my wife, so she's a little sick now. Yeah. So I'm just taking one day at a time and trying to figure out what the priorities are as I go. And I've talked a little bit to you about it, but I haven't said it here on the podcast. But right now, number one priority is I'm writing a book, and I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it's going to be structured, but it is going to be some stories from my childhood and about kind of some of the traumatic experiences that shaped who I am. And then also, I hope to include some framework about how I've transitioned from being really depressed and kind of lay out the path that I took to kind of kick off my healing journey and just kind of go through that. And I'm getting to a point where I'm finally feeling like I've got a handle on things, definitely emotionally and kind of just across the board. Like I feel centered. I feel like I'm making decisions from my own values and don't need to get external validation, which is so brand new to me and foreign, still navigating it. But I hope this book just kind of shares some of that, and step A to step B to step C, hopefully it can help. So that's the newest thing for me.
There you go. When's the release date? I'm just kidding. If you're just starting writing it and everything, then you don't know. But do you have any idea on how you're going to release it at all? If you're going to release it?
I think I'll probably try to get it published.
There you go.
No matter what it turns into. I have a friend, one of my best friends from college, Joe Wistersill. He's also a rap artist, reverse mechanic. If anybody wants to check him out, he's a super clever dude, really good lyricist. But he wrote a book and he's currently trying to get it published. It's a fiction thriller, and I was one of the proofreaders, and it's really good. And I'm a huge book reader, so I enjoyed it. He's working on getting it published, so I'm hoping to kind of stand on his shoulders a little bit when I get to that point and let him kind of guide me through that process. But for sure, it's going to be a while.
Obviously. Yeah. I was just trying to put a ton of pressure on you right away as soon as you announced it.
So I started writing it right before February started, right at the end of January. And I thought, and because I'm always overambitious, it's maybe I'll get through a rough draft by the end of March. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. But it is coming fast. So I've already
it's flowing.
Yeah, I've got 40,000 words already.
Wow.
That's gonna get cut back, and a lot more needs to be added. But it's kind of just it. That's why I know it's meant to happen. It's just kind of coming out, and it's helping me make a lot of sense in my life. And
sure,
I feel lighter every time I work on it. So it's good. And whether it gets published or not is irrelevant. Just like this podcast, I'm doing it for me.
Right.
And we'll see what happens after.
Exactly. That's awesome. That's a good mindset. So are you doing that most of the week then?
I'm doing that 3-4 days a week. And then I have been still working on designs for the living room. And on top of that, just, lots of therapy, doing the life coaching thing. I'm still trying to go down that path. So I'm getting pulled in all kinds of directions right now, all from me, which is nice because my whole life I've been pulled in a million directions because
You're
I'm
clearly
trying to.
excited though. Which
Yeah.
Perfect time to be pulled in a bunch of directions when you're happy about all of them. So
yeah. So and I really want to try to get them all to like align and combine into one thing, but I think that's just over ambitious again right now. But one step at a time. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. That's sweet.
Yeah. What's new with you?
New with me. I am gonna finally stop talking about this tap handle job. I delivered the final 50 today. So I quoted it to be 18 weeks. And I think I remember saying on the podcast, I can do it faster than that, I think. And I'll just do 18 weeks to make sure I have enough time. I think I did it in 15 and a half weeks.
Nice.
That was at least from the quote. I don't remember if I was waiting on the deposit or not, but either way, 15 and a half weeks. Total was 72 hours for 100 tap handles, and with 10 hours a week, because I've got 12 hours for my shop hours minus 2 hours for the podcast. So I've got 10 hours a week of working time. That's 7 weeks is what it should be. But I had some overlapping. I had the built-in back in December, and I had another little box to work on too. So plus the holidays, plus everything else, 7 weeks of hours turned into 15, which is kind of funny when you try to predict stuff. So that is a benchmark that I will use in the future if I ever do another tap handle job.
Do you want to do another tap handle job?
I would like to do more for this brewery because they set me up with the tool. You know, they it's not a risk, but they took a risk, right? Like, I don't know. They're not buying this from anybody who's known for doing this, right? So I respect that, and they did it with the intent of another order. I think they'll come back to me in the future. So if they ask me again, I'll do at least one more job for them. But I'm not going to actively seek it out. Sure. If they do a lot of marketing and sales off this stuff, because I gave them some materials to use, just some like pictures and stuff, and it says locally sourced, tap handles made in Minnesota or whatever. If they do a lot with that and I get other attention, I'm just going to quote it really, really high.
Sure.
And then if it lands, then that'll be fun money, I guess, even though that's exactly what I promised I wouldn't do anymore. I'm just not going to put myself it'll be enough to where it's going to buy me another big tool that I need versus kind of pay the bills. Like, I'm not going to take a loss.
It's going to be worth your time
at all. Yeah, it's going to be heavily worth the time if I'm going to do it for a different brewery. For Finnegan's, I'll do at least another job, maybe 2, just because I like the fact that they're easy to work with, and they nice people, and they took a chance to get me this job. So that was good. Yeah. Overall, ready to make a dining table, ready to make a chair. I've got
something else.
Itch. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. My shop is a nightmare right now. It is trashed. It's the worst it's ever been. I've got lights that are going out up in the ceiling that are LEDs that are burnt out or whatever. I've got dust up to your waist probably. I've got it's bad. It's real bad. So gonna do a deep clean. I kind of try to do a reset before my next project, which is that giveaway dining table. So I'm gonna start on that soon.
So deep clean, does that mean you're rolling everything out of there and compressed air, getting all the dust out?
Let's not be too ambitious here, Brian.
Okay. No, I was just curious what you meant by that.
Probably. Yeah, I'll probably roll the tools out, and then a lot of the shelving that I have under the workbenches are catch spaces for just shit, honestly.
Scrap.
Yeah. So there's like tools and there's little pieces of ply that I might use someday. So I just need to just revamp all that. And then I think for my little workbenches, my modular assembly table that I was working on, I was talking up all this idea on these other work surfaces underneath on that top drawer that you pull out, and it's like a smooth surface that I can use for upholstery someday or something.
Haven't gotten
That's
around
gonna be a
to
lot
it.
of work.
Yeah.
So I'm just probably gonna put some drawer slides in there and then still transform those into just my normal workstation with all the tools I need underneath. And then I'll just try to keep the shop cleaner. And then if I need to do some type of work where I can't get it dusty, have the shop cleaner and then have some type of throw surface where I can throw that over the assembly table and still do soft work.
Sure.
So
yeah.
it's too much to worry about. I don't really care about that feature anymore. I did in the moment, and that was when I didn't have a ton of work going on.
I get it. Yeah.
A ton of projects. So priorities have shifted.
I've had this like janky why can't I talk right now? A jig cart for my table saw. So I had like a box joint jig, the crosscut sled that was just like this little 2x4 monstrosity on these tiny little caster wheels. And I've had it in mind to make a better one for like since the beginning, 4 years. And I have never gotten around to it. And I don't think I ever will.
No, you don't need to. Have you needed to? No, it works.
No, it works.
That's the problem. It's really easy to get stuff functional. And then as soon as it's functional, but not like perfected or like hyper nice or anything, you kind of just lock in and then you move on to the next functional thing. Like I have a drill press stand that I'm like, okay, I'll put drawers on. And I mounted it to an old table saw base of this. I got this really old table saw for free from a family friend. And that thing blew up pretty quick. It was a piece of junk anyway. It was literally probably from the 1500s. I don't know. But this table saw base, I took the whole main actual structure off and I just used the metal, fabricated bent metal as the base for my drill press. And I was going to add some drawers under it for the drill bits. And I was going to do this and that and the other thing. And it's not.
Never happens.
It's exactly where it's at.
Yeah.
And it's going to stay like that too, because it's fine.
It's fine.
You live in contentment, right? It's all right.
Yeah. I just wish I could have that attitude more on the custom projects, right?
Well, for those, other people have to deal with it. So then it's a little better to be hard on yourself. For my own shop, it's just embarrassing when people come over and I'm like, don't look at the drill press stand because it's a hunk of metal with a drill press on top of it. But
when I saw it, I didn't notice anything. So it was.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I was impressed by your shop. Your shop looks nice, tidy.
Looks nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get a little dusty when you go in there.
Yeah, it's just like just any shop project or any project. You're going to know all the flaws, and nobody else is going to notice.
That's good. That's good perspective. How's your miter stand going?
It's designed.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but we haven't. We're getting plywood by the end of this week to get going. Maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'll cut it out if Nate says no. But he's adding Baltic birch to his for sale items.
Oh, well, if it helps, by the time this airs, it'll either be available or not. And that's
there you go.
I think it'll be available. Sorry, folks, you can't get that. But that's exciting. Baltic birch. I'm actually gonna probably take that as I'm sick of buying Menards plywood. That's not really the move.
Yeah, and he's trying to keep it, cheaper than other places that sell it. So I think it's going to be a big hit. But yeah, so we'll get plywood this week for a miter saw station, and we're doing it kind of like we're doing it modular, like you did your workbench, where it's just repeating units of the same thing, and then each section is going to have a rollaway cart underneath that will nest in. And so we've got an idea for one that just has 4 drawers on each side that rolls around. All of them are going to have a power strip on it so we can plug things in and move that around the shop. Perfect. And then we've got a couple ideas for like a sanding cart where it's just grab and go everything. There's no drawers. Just it'll be like a French cleat right underneath the bench to just do whatever you need to. So yeah, we're going to have some fun with that. And I wanted to like overly design it. And he's just like, let's just wait till the station's up there and we'll kind of do it by need. And I'm like, that's no fun. Let's design the crap out of it.
he just needs it built at this point. He's just probably that guy moves fast.
Way on the practical end compared to me.
Yeah. I mean, different stuff. Building different stuff, selling different stuff, right?
Different strokes for different folks.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exciting. That sounds like a good system. So my miter stand is not the same. It's just this big long table, but it's fixed to the wall with spots underneath for my planer jointer.
Sure.
And then I've got some shelves that I'm going to rip out from the other side underneath the miter stand. So I don't know that anything in my shop is optimized, but just like you guys are finding out, like at a certain point, you just got to make it, so.
Yeah. You just got to have things be functional. And then when you've got time, which, like we're both talking about, you never really find it.
Just like we just said, you make it functional and then you move on.
Yeah. Well, do you have any other shop projects in mind, or are you just jumping right to tables and
right to the dining table? But I'm quoting a pair of side tables for a friend here. Okay. So my brother-in-law is looking for some side tables, so there's a chance I'll be making those for him. We'll see. It's hard to quote something small that's competitive with, especially when they send you a picture, right? So I'll do my best. If you want me to build it, I'll build it, but it's not going to be cheaper than the places you're sending it from. So,
right.
But we'll see if he's interested, if he likes the design. Obviously, the problem is that he showed me something very simple, which is an over the couch side table.
Oh yeah,
one of those that can go over the side, and it was almost like the metal frame, like it looked like a fabricated metal frame with a flat top on it, and I can't do that out of plain wood, right? I need a little more structure to it, just because I can't make it that small and have it sturdy enough. So I was gonna have a flat piece on the bottom, just add more weight, and then make the posts a little bigger up top, just a little beefier, have some better structure. So that was the first thought. I'll just make it like that, make it just like the picture, and then my brain went just wide left, and I was drawing some crazy angles and trying to do some crazy stuff. And I sent it to him just like, this is not anything like what you sent me, but this is what I thought of when I saw yours, so I actually still don't know which one he's going to want. If any of them based on the prices, but I did the simple one and the wacky one too. So, just some side tables. It'd be good just to make something small out of, it sounds like either walnut or cherry. So, should be good.
Awesome. Yeah. Anything else that you've been quoting recently, or anything else possibly coming?
No big quotes. No big quotes. I was talking about that salon that I was
what happened with that?
So I sent probably my best quote presentation wise. Like I made crazy renders, like really good detail in there, and they like the design is what they said in the email, but they're going to chew on it some more. They're not in a rush to do this. So they're going to chew on the design some more and then send me some more inspiration photos. Cause that's what I asked for, is like, if you want adjustments, I'll need some type of inspiration photos. And I might have already said this, but I only ended up sending them one concept.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And typically, we've talked about this a couple of times, I usually do 2 to 3 concepts, and they try to go 2 different ways. And then I want people to pick the root of what they like, and then we'll pull it back into one design. But in drawing this thing out, I was sketching, and I had one idea I liked and one idea that I thought was fine, and then the rest was not. Like, I was just too obsessed with this one idea, and I just kept thinking of it. Like, I was just always going back to this one shape and structure, and I really like it. But if they don't, I don't know, like they didn't give me inspiration photos to go off or whatever. When I asked what do you want to feel when you look at it, what kind of theme what type of furniture do you like, all those questions, ended up saying they want it to look badass. So I was like,
badass. Okay.
Badass. I'll try to figure that one out. But so I took a shot, and I think they liked it. And, they've been really easy to work with or easy to talk to. We haven't had a ton of communication because I'm just early quotes still. So I don't know that that's going to land. after seeing the response.
Okay.
We'll see if they come back with better inspiration stuff. I think price hit them a little hard. We're talking about a certain number for each unit, and for some backstory, this was going to be 6 workstations at a salon. 4 of them being 2 stylist units, so room for 2 stylists' tools.
Yeah.
And then the 2 end units being single stylist units. So 6 units total, and they had a basic number in mind for what they would do, and it was double what they did 10 years ago when they set up the salon. So they're like, 10 years ago we got these, the ones they currently had, which are plywood with exposed edges and a lot of stuff I wouldn't personally do, just not my style, not my quality that I want to make. So the current ones were plywood with exposed edges and all that. But they were willing to go double now, around double. And it was like, okay. And then I thought I could achieve that pretty well. And then as I kept designing, I was designing myself out of this price. And that's my own failure, honestly. Like I designed myself out of their own price. But I couldn't really figure out how I would pull the design back into their budget and have any desire to make them. So, which was a bummer.
It would probably be a really good look for you to potentially now try to pull it back and send them a secondary quote. That's a great down point. A little bit. Because that would give them a really good impression. Like, oh, he kind of read the room while we were waiting and thinking about it. And he got closer to what we were hoping for.
That's a good idea. Now that I took my mind off of it for a couple weeks now.
Exactly.
So I'm probably a little fresher to come up with a separate idea that pulls different concepts in. But I quoted it with real quality materials, and I was real high. I was double their number.
Double. Yeah.
Well, their double was their realistic, right? Yeah. So their number that they were willing to spend. I came in double that, and then I quoted it with plywood.
Okay.
And but still hardwood faces, like drawer faces and stuff.
Yeah.
And feet and like basic functional pieces, but the main carcass was plywood, and there's this whole surround that's above that holds some shelves and stuff. That was all plywood, and I, instead of tempered glass, I did the cheaper glass. Like I just tried to pull everything out of it. It had some glass shelves. Anyway, I just went too hard with this thing, but that I pulled it down farther, but not quite as far. Get to, because the materials don't do everything for you. Like people sometimes think like if I just replace white oak with ash, it should cut the price in half. It's like, well, 90% of that job is labor at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So, that's a long rant about a job that I'll probably never get, but I do like that idea of requoting and just like put everything that I thought aside and just get closer to their number, and then I'll probably land it. So,
yeah. And even if you don't, like, that will be a great experience for them that you like tried again, and they'll probably, if they ever are in contact with anybody else, they'll hopefully recommend you just because you did that extra step. Yeah.
Oh, man. It's just hard. And
only if it's worth your time.
I've run the number by people and they're like, that seems low. Now, I don't know. Like it's a business, right? So it's like, and I'll tell you offline, but it just per unit, it seems difficult to pull off. So I'll take another look at it though. That's a good point.
Yeah. But stick to your guns.
The assembly I was going to have to do was going to be fairly in depth with these stylist tool holding drawers and everything. So I was going to have some stuff CNC cut. I don't have a CNC, so I was going to outsource that. I put in some, like I kind of mentioned, these glass shelves. Only that's the cross structure of the shelf was going to be glass. So I got that quoted by a real glass place that I got the glass for from the last cabinet, the steam vent cabinet for my doors. And so I was trying to think about all that, and I was getting really granular with the quote so I could be accurate, because it's like with 6 of these units, if I miss, I'm screwed. Because if I'm way off, I'm dead in the water with money. So I need to be pretty accurate. So I was really good down to the board foot and the paint and the finish and the everything. So
Okay, so covering yourself. Good.
Mm-hmm. But it was just thinking about every little step in the assembly and how do I do this quickly but still quality.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope that it turns out for you and you get to get a free haircut out of it or something.
I don't think I ever will get another haircut.
I'm going to keep teasing you about it.
No, that's all right. My wife sometimes jokes that I need to grow it out, but then she's the one that cuts it. So it's like, don't cut it then. Just kidding. No, I love that she cuts it. So it's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like waking up in the morning with my hair different than when I went to sleep. Then it's too long for me.
I hear you. It's been a while since I've lived that way, but
I'm a low maintenance hair guy.
Real nice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like if you were quoting this job, would your main focus be with the materials, with the labor, with the what would you think about mostly? Because I'm always focused on the actual assembly. Because even if I miss with labor, 90% of that job is time for me.
Yeah, I typically, I'm focused on the labor almost all the time. The material, I always quote like separate the materials and separate the labor so they at least like see how far apart and different they are, so they understand that material really isn't a key factor here.
Right.
But yeah, I'd focus on design and making it badass. I guess that was the only thing that they gave you. But I think I'd just start when I design things, especially like bigger pieces of furniture. I kind of design. I always think about how's this thing going to be structurally sound, and then make sure that it's going to last a long time, right? So if once it is affected by gravity, is the structure stronger than just an assembled piece of wood furniture? I don't know if that made sense, but I just focus on the labor and figure out how much is the design going to take compared to making a really good looking piece of furniture.
Yeah. So what you kind of mentioned there was you're making sure that it's going to hold itself together in a way.
Hold itself together, and like the function of it, like if are people leaning on it, is it going to take a lot of weight? Basically, is it going to be solid where if it gets moved around or they move locations, is it going to still be intact? So I'm kind of like, I'm never butt joining anything. It's usually always a dado or always some interlacing joinery, just to make sure that, like, I don't know how to explain it differently than that. It just makes sure that, if there are parts, vertical and horizontal parts, that there's always more strength as you add more weight on top.
Right. That makes sense. Have you been commonly using any dominoes, or do you use a domino jointer at all, or joiner?
I wish I had a domino joiner. And I've heard mixed feelings on whether or not it's much better than like a biscuit joiner, but I use a biscuit joiner quite a bit. And even when I'm doing like a dado, cross shelf and a dado on the vertical, I'm usually putting a biscuit in there too.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So I kind of just make sure that there's no way that this thing's coming apart unless you're really trying to get it to come apart. And that's just for my own sanity. It's not even necessarily driven by like quality of the product. It's just so that I know I shouldn't have to deal with it ever later.
Right. It's not going to come back to bite you, right?
Yeah.
The biscuits have got to help with alignment too, just because all my dados I usually run just straight dados. They're fairly deep. I like to have a lot of material in the other piece, but I never use any type of alignment other than the front face of the actual of the groove that I'm in. So I just run it based on that. So
you haven't done like a stopped dado or anything like that before?
No, I've done some stop dados, but they're all defined by the backside then. So like if I've never had them fully floating in space, like a like a open, it'd be like a tenon at the end of the day, like a giant tenon or mortise, basically, is what your dado is at that point. But no, yeah, if I've had stopped dados, they've been in order to have like a shelf that's a couple inches back from the front face of the carcass, but the back side of the shelf references a surface, so I know that I'm aligned back to back, which is where my back panel would then made up to.
Sure.
So that's where I do most of the alignment stuff. But adding in a biscuit could help just for knowing where you are in space. But a lot of the materials I'm using, I've done a lot of 3/4 inch wall, so then it's like I'll only have 3/8 left of material in that main carcass wall to put a biscuit into. So I think that'd be too shallow.
Sure.
So, yeah.
You can set the depth of it though, and then you can.
Yeah. Can you go down to like a quarter? I just don't have a biscuit joiner. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll use like so it's just a circle blade that cuts it, right? So it's just, and then it's on a spring, so you push it into something, and then so yeah, you can set the depth, and like you can actually. So sometimes, like when you're saying if there's a dado and I'm putting a biscuit in there, I'll make the inside one really shallow just so there's enough inside of that dado, and then I'll make it deeper on the other side.
What's really shallow? Like if you had to put a number on it?
Probably, I think I've done, I mean, an 1/8 inch isn't really enough. So
I was going to say, what's the point when it's that small?
Yeah, like 3/16 or 1/4 inch. I've done 3/16 before on the inside of a dado to make a biscuit joint. But yeah, I don't know. I don't remember where I was going with that.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's just interesting for my design purpose. Just how that's another step too in every glue up, every biscuit, every little piece. That's another step. So then I wonder, like, cost benefit wise. I mean, it makes you feel good, right? And it's more solid. But how much more solid? Like, I wish there was a great way to quantify that, but there's.
I mean, it's worth testing. I mean, there's who's the woodworker? He does a really good job. He does a lot of tests like that. Is it the Wood Whisperer? I think
I've seen his videos.
Yeah, he does a lot of like scientific setup. Like, let's do an experiment, see what's the force that this breaks or this breaks.
Have you seen Bourbon Moth's?
I haven't seen.
Joint? He did a joint test where he did like 13 different joints. It was like a butt joint, a miter joint with splines, a miter joint with dominoes. He did every combination, and then he put weight on it and tested each one until they broke, and it was a full comparison. And I wish I could remember, but the dovetails didn't do as good as you'd think, and they all worked fairly well, but certain the lamellos, I think they're called, those plastic biscuits, basically. Have you heard of lamellos? Yeah.
It's got an undercut, right? So it's kind of like it slides in like that.
Yeah, and then there's like two pieces to it, and it's almost like a locking domino that pops it into place.
Yeah.
So it's like a biscuit, and I think the main value with those is for glue ups, because then you just have them in place, and then it basically sucks your piece together and acts like an internal clamp in a way. Yeah, but they're not very structural overall.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, he did a good video on just joints, and then I'm still sticking with my typical rabbits and dados and everything. So that's how it works. But
yeah, so I mean, so in terms of like getting started on design, that's kind of the first thing is I like to take the weight consideration in, and if people are going to be leaning on it, I want to know that and want to make sure that it's strong enough. And then from there, like you were saying, you're designing for like their tool holders and stuff. I'd try to come up with a few different ways, like a cheap way and an expensive way that looks really cool.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many steps that we'd take drastically different, but that's kind of, I always start with the weight issue.
That makes sense. I've been super conscious recently because I did these 2 cabinets this last year. I've been very conscious on tipping. So just like putting as much weight on the bottom or the back panel, just to, like, I've upgraded my back panel size on the second cabinet versus the first. And, just my drawer face doesn't need to be as thick. It can be thinner, just to it's that cantilevered weight that's way out there on the drawer.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Just trying to think about all that, because people don't want to take that wire and screw the cabinet into the wall. Have you seen those protective measures?
Yeah.
Like, people don't actually want to do that. So
yeah, I wouldn't want to do that.
no. And do you really want the whole cabinet to start to fall and then it's caught by a little wire going into your wall? No.
Yeah.
So just trying to decrease any tipping hazards. Stuff that the big box stores, they've got it dialed in, especially because the materials are MDF and everything. But like our dresser in the bedroom, you can open every drawer and probably sit on them and it won't tip over. And it's just an IKEA dresser. Like, it's super stable.
Really?
Even with a bunch of clothes in it. And I've been worried about it because, like, we'll be putting away laundry and all these drawers are open. I'm like, the thing is going to tip over. It's like, no, just your cabinet might. Like, but it works out.
That's cool. Yeah. That's another thing you could scientifically, experimentally test. Just kind of push your cabinet over and see how much force it needs.
Exactly. I did that with the Manhattan cabinet. I had that working shelf where you can like mix drinks or whatever. So I put weight on it, and with it unloaded, the whole cabinet unloaded, like not a bottle in it, because as soon as you start filling it up with liquor, it's going to get way heavier in the back and the bottom.
Yeah.
But with it unloaded, you could put about 25 pounds on the farthest point out before it started to tip, which wasn't enough for me to want to, like, I didn't feel great about only 25 pounds. But when you were looking at all these bottles, like I stacked a bunch of bottles out there that was less than 25 pounds. It was, you'd have to try at that point. And it's, at the end of the day, with main use, like actual customer use, they're going to have some bottles in the back of it, and it'll be more sturdy. So
there's plenty safe.
Something to worry about though, for anybody designing a cabinet. Make sure all the drawers can open at the same time and the thing doesn't tip over.
That's a super good point. Yeah. I don't always think about that, but I don't do a lot of drawers, and I would definitely miss that.
Well, and as a sane person, I'm not going to open every single drawer in it. Like, I just don't. You go to the drawer, a couple drawers at a time that you need. But somebody out there is going to end up doing that, and the whole thing might come crashing to the ground. So, and you want your doors, your doors at full extension, everything adds weight out there.
What is so what are your priorities, or do you think you covered yours too? Because where do you start when you it was this thing that you didn't really even know about, so you had to go visit and see what kind of the function was. Was there anything that you left out or you want to add in, like when you're designing?
Yeah, I take as much as I can of the business in mind, which sucks to say because I don't want to be designing for businesses all the time. I want to take customers in mind too. But I just haven't had as much experience in homes, building for private homes. But their business colors were black, golden oak, and white. So I tried to do, it was all white oak or plywood for the cheaper option. So it was white oak, and then I for the surround that had the glass shelves, it was going to be black Rubio on it, where you still see the grain. So I was going to do red oak to save money, and do the black stain or the black finish from Rubio on there, because I hadn't had a chance to use that. I've been curious about it, and also just trying to take their colors into mind. I do a lot of like just stance look. Like, what does it look like? What does it say when, like, is it imposing? Is it kind of in the corner? Is it, I don't know. There's a lot, and I'm not great at changing that, but I try to always get a conclusion after I'm done. Like, I'm not great at tweaking the stance, but there's something that really changes with your feet and your weight distribution of the piece too. So it comes back a lot to tipping. Like we talked about, because of that cabinet, I've been very sensitive to tipping, and it didn't have an issue, that cabinet, but it just showed a possible future pain point. So I try to get around that. And at work, in the engineering job I do a lot of tip testing too.
Okay.
So it's front of mind all the time. But
yeah.
So
stance. Yeah. So you're kind of, I know we talked about this at one point, but like, so you're kind of trying to give it almost like a personality. Like, is it like
Yes.
describe it with an adjective? Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's like,
if it has a voice, like what does it sound like? If it was
sure.
a
Where would you
person in the
put
room.
that in like the top 3 priorities of your design checklist? Or is that in the top 3?
That's a good question. It's not a decision-making point, but I find myself always referring back to it because when I sketch, when I'm trying to come up with a concept, it's always the outline. Like I can see the shape, and I start with like a shape, and I fill in the voids in a way. So I
Okay.
start with the functional surfaces. It's always the functional surfaces first, and those are usually horizontal. Like that's where we do everybody uses horizontal surfaces.
Yep.
And then I kind of just connect them with vertical or angled lines or curves, and that's where the shape comes in, and it's kind of the stance, and then I kind of feel out what that actually looks like.
Okay.
And the problem is I haven't had a lot of chance to build a lot of these things, but I'm always trying to make different voices with the different pieces that I'm dreaming up. So I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
cool.
I don't know if that makes a ton of sense, but if you were to go to my website and see like the cabinets that I've got modeled as like I'd like to build these, I think they all have different voices. Like I can kind of, they feel different to me.
Yeah, it's funny when you're talking about how you get started. I was like picturing like, the stereotypical like you hear from a sculptor. It's like, oh, there's the thing already there. I'm just trying to unleash it.
Not
It kind of feels like you've got that like a similar process of like I've got this idea in my head, and then it's gonna come together. So it's like you've got a few things that are gonna be there, and then you're filling in the gaps.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's totally different than how I go with my design. So that's cool to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of start with just what is the what's it going to feel like when you use it? It's not really like what it looks like. The looks like is like later. Even though it's funny because I do patterns and it's what the looks like.
That's exactly the look.
Is front and center, but it's actually I start with what does this feel like when it's in use, and then I try to make it pretty. So it's kind of reversed, and I find that super interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely focused on like the overall appeal, and then I find myself looking at it in one angle too much, so I have to really work to look at it in other angles. But I just define my functional surfaces and then I connect them. But it's not like some magic where the block of marble has the side table deep within it, and I just have to pick away at the marble. But no, it's a lot more simple than that for me. But that's how I concept at least, and then obviously whatever I saw last on Instagram is heavily influencing my brain deep inside. And I don't
your
even know
version of it.
Yeah. But that's how that goes.
Cool. What else?
What else?
What else
has been on my mind? I'm doing a lot of.
I'm super good at transitions, so
that's all right.
Keep relying on me there.
Along with like this whole design change, like doing these quotes for the salon or even doing the dining table, I'm really worried about my rebranding that I've been talking about.
Oh, sure.
I feel like I got to get that done first. If I'm doing a table giveaway and I'm making people follow the page to enter the giveaway or whatever, I need to establish. I don't want to do that and then change everything. Like, what's the point of that? So,
isn't that going to be the case, whatever project you're working on? So,
yeah, but if I can like get it set up before the project hits or before the giveaway hits, that'll just make a little more sense. So I've been having these crazy. I'm saying crazy now because I'm backtracking. You can feel it. You guys have heard in the previous episode 11, 10, I was trying to make an empire that rivals the size of the United States, and we're all going to make furniture together, and it's going to be great. But it just seems even more unattainable now, to the point of what is my main goal? And now I'm back to that again. And in general, I just want to be a good dad and a good husband. I'm not a dad yet. That's just a fundamental life goal. A good person and enjoy what I do enough, right? So I don't have to do woodworking, but I do love it, right? So at the end of the day, I think the scale that I was dreaming up would hinder some of those things. I think if I was actually trying to make some big furniture company that's that huge, I'm not going to be as good of a dad or as good of a husband. So I don't want that. Like that's a selfish dream overall, I think, because I don't need that part. What's the fundamental part that I like is building furniture.
Sure.
And making ideas into reality. So I think I'm going to take that part and focus on that and try to make something functional that still supports the goals of being a good husband and a good dad. Now I feel like I have 5 kids sitting downstairs, but I don't. I know it's a thing that I want to do, right? So I'm dialing it back a little bit. I don't want to make an empire. I do still want to work with people. I can't.
I don't remember you talking empire, but
in my brain it was an empire. Dude, I was talking about I was talking about different divisions, and I was trying to dream up the biggest thing because I was like, because that's when I was worried only about money the whole time, and that is still my root worry because that's just how I'm wired. But it's like it's not that complicated. Just make some furniture, get word of mouth to go around, and at the end of the day, right now in the moment, I'm sick of social media. We're shooting a podcast. That's fine. I don't want to focus super hard on that. I want to still post. I want to still do everything, but I just want to make some stuff for myself, get better, get known enough to where somebody's actually going to ask for me one of my pieces. That hasn't happened yet. So just get to that point. And then I've kind of said it in the past, just optimize the side gig. And then the gates will open to being comfortable enough to do it as a bigger operation.
Sure.
Not the biggest thing you ever seen, but something attainable and a community. Like it needs some people, I don't want to do it alone. So just need time. I think I just need time. And that sucks because this podcast storyline, right? Matt's about to jump. Matt's about to go, it's perfect for this podcast. Like I'm about to go full time. Well, it's going to be a little bit. So it might be a longer burnout until I go full time, but I think it still could happen. But honestly, full time isn't even the priority anymore. It's just making ideas reality, like making stuff and being a good husband.
Yeah.
And enjoying life. So I think
I'm gonna try to reflect some of the ideas back on what I was thinking while you're talking, because it's like I hear that like being a good father is like way up there on the list for me too. I'm a little bit not late in life to have kids, but there is a timeline, and we're not near it, but that's something that I'm looking forward to. We're not ready with the way, our careers both are. But I do want to say, like, that's awesome that you're like centered back there and that's like really, really what you want in the world. And I think it's tempting. Well, it depends on who it is, right? It depends on who you are and what you're all about on this world and what your experience is. It's tempting to think that it's either or, right? And I think it can be both. And it sounded like you were also saying, for now, the focus is different. And if it gets bigger and bigger, that dream might still be within you to have a bigger thing. Is that true, what I'm saying? Or is it kind of that is like totally on hold until certain things happen.
Sure. So it's not totally on hold. It's
Okay.
as fast as my skills and quality work and interest grow.
I see. Yeah.
So I'm trying not to force anything right now.
Sure.
To where I'm because by forcing things, I feel like I'm digging a pit of work I don't want to do and skills I don't really want to do long term. Like, I don't want to get great at built-ins. I'm getting better at built-ins. That's not a good. Why am I getting stop? Like, work on what So
because there's a recent episode that you said
don't even
everybody can be a teacher. And I think every project can be a teacher too. And so I think there is value in, but anyway, that's all I want to say. What were you going to do?
I'm going to pick the projects to what I want to learn too. Cause this isn't even like, if I don't want to do built-ins full time, I don't need to get great at them because I'm not great at them. I'm okay. But that's just not the focus. So, if I was renovating houses, if I had a cabinet company, I'd focus on those obviously because that's what I need to be good at. But it's just a shift of focus. And yes, the whole reason I was taking all those jobs was to dig myself out of some business debt that allowed me to get set up. So I don't want to call out those jobs as being terrible decisions because I did them needing to. And if I didn't do them, I'd be paying a bunch of interest on some business debt, which I never had to because I got some jobs, paid it off. We're all good. Right. So now I have a shop set up that was all due to the business and those jobs that I, looking back, it's not the main goal, but I had fun doing them because I was excited and I was on fire, so they weren't bad. It's just not the focus going forward. That's the only thing.
Yeah. So you're getting more focused in your values, which is exactly where you want to be.
Right. So it's just about being sustainable longer term rather than like grinding because I just need to get set up to where that jump is feasible and I'll be excited to, not scared to. Because this whole time I was scared and I felt the need to, because in my mind it was just like, I have to. I love this so much more than my normal job. But when you look at my real job at work that I go to every day, I don't dislike it. It's good. I like it. I like going there. I'm never dreading. Well, I don't say never, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's not it's not toxic. It's not tearing me down, but I was letting it for a little bit there when I was too obsessed with blowing up a furniture company that's huge when I don't even have the interest to back that up. So it's more about the skill and the sustainability behind it. Because if I can do this, let's say I'm consistent and I'm good until I'm 40. Now I'm in an age where I'm hopefully more stable, like I'm more set up, and maybe I have kids and they're at a certain age where I can go do this. It's not as hands-on with kids or whatever it is. Like, you don't know your life plan. Anything can happen, right? But I'm just trying to be ready and be sustainable to that point. If it happens way earlier, that's fine too. Because you hear all stories all the time where people posted things on Instagram and there was tons of interest and they had to make the jump because they were getting more money there than at their normal job. That's very hard for me to get to. I haven't had the interest, and to compete with an engineer's salary is honestly a little tough. Not that it has to, but like, I don't dislike my job. So why, there's this.
Yeah. I think
it's such a range.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to go back and forth on the dream too. Like thinking about that business that has multiple departments and everything, like if there is excitement behind that, like thinking about that, like extract that at least, and like plant that seed, right? To like figure out what else it could be. Like I think I'm in total agreement with you right now where when we were talking about it back at that time, you were getting like anxious and like, okay, there's like some urgency and like, that's definitely not good. And you don't want that, at least not to an extent where it starts to overwhelm you. But at the same time, I also think it's really important to not like plant yourself too deeply in like one vision, right? Which you said, you don't know what life's going to be like tomorrow. So I think it's important to like keep thinking about what are the different ways that it could be bigger. Because again, not to like pressure you, I'm definitely not trying to pressure you to like keep that dream up. But like if tomorrow you have a dream that like this is like really exciting and I can see how it's maybe not sustainable per se, like there's going to be that balance of comfort versus reward. But if the reward ever becomes worth the discomfort, then there's new decisions and new calibrations and trying to understand all that. And so I think I'm definitely just I'm not risk averse. I'm a person who like if there's a reward and I think it's within my capability, I'm gonna try. And so
you got to try, yeah.
Right. And so that's I'm just making sure you're not getting to a place where you're like, no, I don't. You're like convincing yourself you don't want that right now.
No, it's not that I don't want that. I'm just trying to pull my expectations back to something that I actually want based on my values. My goals. My goal in life is not to have some big company. It's not. So why am I focused on that for a minute? Like I just need to live life and enjoy it with my family, and then do something with the goal of making my career into something that I love. Even though right now my career is something I like, it's not what I love, but that being okay with that's okay. But then trying to take every free moment to allow myself opportunities to transition into the career that I love would be the key. And allowing for that to scale and allowing for it to like, I'm just trying to go with the flow a little bit more.
Yeah.
Than just
that's perfect.
Push life, and just like worry so much about stuff I can't control and all those cliche type things. Like just gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna work extremely hard, but it's gonna be more for like I'm gonna just focus on very specific things because I was going way too broad for a while there.
Yeah, but again, just because you said too broad, the word too.
I was going too broad. I will stand by that. I was trying. Yeah, it was too much. I had a residential and a commercial type business like clients. I'm categorizing these people and reaching out in different ways. It's like I'm one guy that doesn't even do this full time, that has 10 hours a week in a shop, and I'm trying to meet two different clients.
You're experimenting.
I was experimenting, but I was stretching myself thin, So now that we've recovered, we're here. We have a shop. Nobody's in financial distress or business debt. We're just gonna chill out and try to. I see my favorite word, chill. It's the theme of 2024 for me. So that's where I'm at with the rebranding, and that kind of comes all full circle to where I think I might just need to go with my name. And I didn't think I'd do that. Yeah. I might just do Ren's Custom Furniture or something. I don't know.
Okay.
That's where I'm at today, is just going with my name, just so I don't have to. All I have to be is myself and do what I like. And I can address it in the future, where Whiskey Woodshop does have the rustic, maybe renovation, maybe that kind of vibe we've already talked about here. Doesn't really fit the vibe of the furniture I want to make. So I might just go to my name and then I can define it versus coming up with some fancy name that I'm not going to like in a couple of years anyway.
So if you think back to when you created Whiskey Woodshop, if somebody had suggested to you back then, what can you just name it your name? What would your thoughts have been?
Back when I named it, I was on Etsy trying to sell flight boards out of whiskey barrels.
Oh yeah, so it drove a
heavily defined by that
specific purpose. That's right.
My name's not going to do anything on Etsy for SEO for any of that. So
what
whiskey and wood.
What if it would have? What if it didn't matter? Would you have been scared to do it with just your name?
I probably wouldn't have done it my name. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That shows a ton of growth, right? So that's awesome. Yeah.
I'm just more confident in what I want to make now, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you think it's going to be Matt Wren's Woodworking, or
It'll probably just be Wren's? I don't know, something.
Okay.
The problem is
noodling.
Yeah, there's so many. There's like weird options. It was going to be furniture company for the last one. It was going to be a word and then furniture company. I'm still thinking about that, but it doesn't really mean anything, right? So then it might be Wren's Studios, Wren's. I don't know.
I have got to keep with the alliteration, right?
Wren's what? Wren's Renovation. I
have no idea.
Let me make you a built-in. I don't know, and I might not even use Wren's because it's just a name. But I think I'm just gonna try to simplify it and just stay in the pocket here where I'm not Whiskey Wood Shop. But it's not a word that means anything to somebody, so then it can become what it needs to become. Because I've had Whiskey Wood Shop, Whiskey Workshop, Whiskey Woodworks. They're like people say them wrong, and that's a bad brand. Like that's not a good name. If somebody reads it multiple times and says it wrong,
sure,
that doesn't hold up.
Yeah, so, it does make it more difficult. Yeah, that's a good point.
And
yeah,
I'm not either way, you've said it wrong.
It's Whiskey Wood Shop.
It's Whiskey Wood Shop, but not today. But like, maybe.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I have
a couple months ago. Like, and but we've been talking for a while, so it's like that's whenever people do it, it's like a clear. Okay, yeah, this isn't the final name because nobody can say it right. Some people can, but they have to be like me or like super close to it. So it just doesn't. It works for selling flight boards on Etsy, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure. So will you keep the name for like things that you would still sell on Etsy if you're still doing?
Never. Well,
okay, so it's different than kind of before we were kind of talking about like a parent-child relationship between some different businesses, but now you're just like it's going to be its own thing, just one thing. Okay, cool.
I think so.
I think that's awesome. Shows
with space confidence. To grow. I mean, just go with the flow. You know, if we got to get bigger, if we got to do some kind of departmental empire furniture company, call me if anybody wants to work with me. But it's I just need to go simple and just work on skills and finding kind of a style, a design voice and everything. So yeah. What about you?
What about
how's the reframing, the rebranding going?
It's been it's all over the place, like kind of how we started today. With I'm experiencing a lot of joy and like a lot of just like really like it feels like I should have been doing this longer when I'm writing. And so I don't think that's always going to be books. I think there's actually like I lean more towards poetry more than I ever actually like was aware of or considered. I just wasn't around it very much. And now I've been finding like, I'm leaning into the emotional parts of myself. Right. And finding that that's like a way bigger part of me than I ever knew. And so I'm really like I want to do storytelling. Like I want to be able to talk about the experiences I've had in life. I'm also like a really, from some of the things, the way I was raised, I've always had this like hypervigilance. And so I've always been really like self-aware, but never really understanding the concept of what that is and how to use it and how to pay attention. And so I'm realizing more and more that like, I just pay very close attention to a lot of different things. And that's always been really difficult for me to create deep friendships with people because the way I experience the world has been different and I couldn't articulate it in good ways until the last few years of my life. And so I need to keep exploring that. I don't want to give up the woodworking at all. Like I picture some of this writing stuff. It doesn't like combine perfectly with the woodworking, but I kind of see two different things like happening in parallel where like, I think, I'm finding a lot of passion in this life coaching thing too. And so like, if I can help other people just be more reflective, like I guess if you distilled what life coaching is, that's all it really is at the end of the day, is I'm helping people ask themselves more questions, reflect on their thoughts and feelings, and what does that mean for their life, and how do they have control of their life. I think I'm just seeing more like I need to find an avenue for that. And then I think the woodworking and starting my own business and going down this path and even doing this new thing that's podcasting, that's like, I didn't imagine doing this.
Nope.
Is just like, that's a good vehicle for a lot of the stories that I want to tell. And so like, I think that's how it'll be hand in hand. I think the future of my life looks a little bit like diving really heavily into one thing and then shifting my focus and then spending some time over here and then coming back and just kind of always doing that. Because I lose interest if I'm doing the same thing for very long. And so I always want to experience the new and like, what's the next thing and what's new? What more can I learn? And so I don't really know yet. It's just kind of, I'm still in the exploring phase, but I definitely, building things with my hands has been like the start of my healing journey again. Like, I'll just say that like something about the act of doing that tells my mind that I'm accomplishing something, so that my critic can stop being as hard on myself. And then I can like focus on what my life is. Right. So it's like, I need both, and I don't know how to combine them right now, but yeah, we'll see. It's a lot to think about. And right now, like I said, this book right now is just the thing that needs to happen. And I've been finding that when I get off track and I'm not spending much time on that, like to start my day, it's extremely hard to work on anything else. So it's
just, you're just so excited and focused on doing that. You're thinking about that all the time.
Yep. And so I think my life's going to be just following that passion for a long time and just see where it goes. But also like I'm seeing in myself too, like as I started getting into this writing thing too, it's like, I don't want to, in the past, I was really good at like, okay, I did this thing, I got good at it, and now let's move on to the next thing and leave that one behind. I'm seeing the damage that has had in my life. And so it's like, this woodworking thing, I'm not leaving behind. I just don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to bring it with me, and just haven't figured that out yet. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to be doing this for a long time. Like right now it is my income. So I need to, I'm going to buckle down here. And I actually like, I'm more ready to face the monotonous stuff. Like making
you have the stuff to work on in the background.
Exactly.
During the monotonous stuff. And that's when the monotonous stuff is almost fun. Because like your brain is like on hyperdrive on this other stuff that's so good.
And I was missing that. And like, so I like, there would be times where I was sanding coasters and it would just be straight up torture because I didn't have that bigger picture view on what my life was building towards. And so now I have something. It's not clear, awesome. But there's things there that I know are waiting for me. And so, yeah, it's just I'm just a totally different person. And so it's kind of, it's cool. So
that's super cool.
Don't know what the brand is going to be. Boss Man's Boutique will still be the name.
Sticking with the name. See, I'm over here like, I got to change the name because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's cool though. I'm going to fade directly into the recommendation for the day. Based on what you said.
Yeah.
It's not directly related. It's just an idea. I was thinking about it when you said you're trying to combine your storytelling passion. So either writing, poetry, connecting with people, life coaching. That's the storytelling portion, and the woodworking portion. There is this isn't related at all to those two topics, but there's a artist on Instagram I love called Sunday Nobody, and you might have seen him, maybe not. He's got a bunch of followers, but he does meme art, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But what I've seen him do is make these big art pieces, and it's either like out in public or it's a big thing in his shop. He did a big Bob Ross picture out of paint palette things from like a Sherwin-Williams or whatever. So it's this huge thing, and then he posted it. It looked cool and sold portions of those to his followers as it's a framed piece of it's like 5 or 6 little pieces of the Sherwin-Williams paint swatches. So it's just 3 little colors and then like the whole picture of the whole piece. So you got like a little portion of the big piece, a picture of the piece, and there were it was like limited. So it's like 300 and some got sold of that piece. And then some of them are really funny, like, cause it's meme art, right? So then he dug a big hole and made a sarcophagus out of concrete for hot Cheetos or flaming hot Cheetos or something, and buried it in there for a future civilization to find or whatever. So that, like, some of them are like, it's meme art, right? But it's really original ideas. But what I liked about the certain things that some of them, like the Bob Ross one, where it's a big piece that means something, and then he breaks it down and sells it in order to fund the next piece, right? So like that's his like income. Yeah. It'd be interesting if you could somehow, because you're talking about wall art with wood, if there was some kind of way you could either put poetry into it or put your book someday into it and do some kind of piece where people can get a portion of that. I don't know what that would look like with woodworking, but I know that you could just take the root of his method and it doesn't need to be a meme. It doesn't need to be art, but it could be wood and storytelling in a combined way where you have a bunch of people buy a portion of it and you're not relying on one big money source. And then you can still share your story with multiple people. Maybe each one has a different poem. Maybe there's like a million ways you could go with it, but they're not at all related. But I think that his basic fundamental of how he does art is kind of different, and I like it.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's an awesome recommendation. What was the name? Sunday Nobody?
Sunday Nobody. Yeah.
Sunday Nobody.
And some of them are real funny. He did a pop-up scavenger hunt. He did in a library in Oregon or something. He hid it was like an Easter egg hunt kind of thing. So it was like 6 books in a row, and they're not real books. So when you like pull down the trapdoor, it's a bunch of little green figures worshiping Mike Wazowski.
Okay.
Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but there are different ways he does it. But multiple of his pieces, people could buy a portion of, like a small section of. He did. He took these hot dogs and he made a mold of a hot dog, and then he froze water in them. So that's like it's a big chunk of ice that looks like a hot dog. And then he put them all in a jar and he sold the jar.
I saw that.
And it's just water.
Yep.
So it's just, that's
just silly stuff.
But I think there's a root to that you could possibly combine some woodworking art and storytelling and distribute it to people. So
I think
no idea if that'll get any traction, but might give you something to go off.
It gives me something to think about. So sure. That definitely. Cool recommendation. I was going to go with some fantasy books, and let's see. So we talked about Name of the Wind. Did you get through that, by the way?
I got to tell you, I have a problem with finishing Audible books.
Oh yeah.
I've got a bunch that are started, but not finished. So I've not finished it.
Okay. So here's a 2-for-1. Name of the Wind, just because we've talked about it on here. But my actual recommendation is The Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. So he's becoming a pretty big author, well-known author in his fantasy series. But this one specifically, it's got cool magic, Stormlight Archives. and it also personifies different mental health conditions. And so it was one that I read many years ago, and there's 4 out right now. I think he intends to have a 10-book series. But I didn't realize, like, while I was reading it, I was like, yeah, there's some like mental health stuff here, but that was like when I was in the middle of it, and I wasn't super aware. I've since gone back and I'm rereading it, and it's like just kind of blowing my mind how much is in there, and like how much it actually conveys some of that story of like how you're feeling when you're going through it and the kind of dynamics that you get stuck in. So that's a cool recommendation. Stormlight Archives, Brandon Sanderson.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good to know. For when I finish Name of the Wind. I'll move on to that one.
Awesome.
There we go. Well,
Cool.
Anything else major you got going on this next week? Anything to look forward to?
Getting started on the shop chop saw stand, and then more work on the book, and then this weekend I've got a game night with some people that
Nice.
It's been a while since I've done a big board game get together, so
Awesome.
That's gonna be good. How about you?
Wait, this weekend I'm thinking of I'm not going to share the house project I'm working on.
Okay.
Because I will pull a permit eventually, but I don't have one yet.
Okay.
It's nothing major. It's really small. So.
Okay.
Yep. That's all I've got to share.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Have a good one, Brian.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We'd be having these conversations with or without you because we get a lot of value out of this and we learn and grow together, but we're glad that you're here as well.
Yes, please let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving a review or a rating, but also comment or share with your friends in the woodworking or small business community. I'm Matt from Whiskey Woodshop.
And I'm Brian of Boss Man's Boutique.
Thanks for
listening.